Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective. I found my tripod, which is why you're up higher, and my hair looks dumb because it's literally been up in a towel for the past 4 hours. For this November, let me get comfortable. For this November, I tried to pick out the topics that were suggested that all had to do with political or social issues. And the first one, this week, we're talking about the right to own firearms and how that applies to our beliefs as pagans. It comes from VivianStorm, who says, "I'd like to know your opinion as a pagan about the right to own fire weapons in the USA and the actual debate. I'm from Spain, where weapons are strictly banned, so from my experience, I just cannot understand the need of owning guns, and I wonder, how does it relate to the 'and it harm none' in case you follow it, or to your view of life as a pagan?" So first of all, I like that they put right in quotation marks. Just because, what does that mean? It's not really a right, or that rights are a thing that Americans have, and I don't know how the government works in Spain. Never been to Spain, don't know much about Spain. I also honestly don't know much about the debate over owning firearms. All that I really know is that a lot of people own weapons and do not use them discerningly at all. And so there's an issue with everyone's allowed to own a weapon, therefore everyone is allowed to have a thing that could potentially facilitate the harm of another person or non-person or non-human person or thing. So I know that some people are talking about, well, okay, that we just need to have better background checks for people who own weapons and blah blah blah, but then your point is, okay, well, in Spain they're banned, so what's the point? Why in the US do we feel like we need to own weapons? And it's because it's a right, and once you give someone that right, they're not going to say, you know what, we don't need to have that right anymore, because no one's going to give that up. Once it was a right to begin with, no one's going to, I don't think anyone's going to give it up and say, we don't need to have that right anymore because it's just being more harmful than it is helpful. But I don't know, I personally do not own a weapon. I used to own a bow, but I certainly don't think I would have ever used that for self-defense. I didn't even use it for hunting. It was a sport to me. I liked to develop the skill. My mother, however, does own a weapon, and I always knew that there was at least one handgun in the house for our protection. It was never used. Throughout my entire lifetime, we never needed to use that as a protective measure. Oh, and I had BB guns, which sometimes, you know, if there was like a wild animal or something, people would shoot BB guns in their general direction. See, this is a topic that I don't even feel comfortable speaking about because I don't like that. But yeah, I personally do not own a weapon, so I guess I do not exercise that right, but I think I agree with just the general idea that we need to be a little bit more careful with whose hands we are gifting with dangerous objects. But then again, if you watch enough crime shows, you know that even the most innocuous object can become deadly. But I digress. Why do we need to own guns? I think it's just the idea that we should be allowed to have it for our own protection. And there have been so many stories recently in the US of someone who had it for protection but used it in an instance that, you know, they justified as, oh, I was protecting myself, but it really wasn't a case where a gun needed to be used, and that's the issue. I don't know anything much about the actual debate, though. I just have this vague idea of all these different stories that I'm reading and these different opinions that I hear my friends and family stating, and I don't know, I'm not really so invested in it myself. I feel like I should go get my brother and ask him, because I feel like he would know a bit more about it. Or my mother, ask her. I don't know. But I can speak to how it relates to "and it harm none" if you follow it, because of course not all pagans do follow it. I happen to, so I can speak to how it relates to that, which is that the reed is guidance, first off. It's something we strive toward. It's not something that we can ever do perfectly because, you know, I wish I had a nickel for every time someone made the argument, every time you touch something, or every time you blink your eyes, and every time you do whatever, you're killing little microorganisms, and when you're sick and you take medicine, you're killing the germs that make you sick, and part of life is killing things. And the difference to me is the difference between purposely causing harm to another living being and then things like I cannot avoid killing microorganisms because of the fact that I am alive. You know, so it's not about complete pacifism, it's not about never harming anything ever, it's about trying to do the least harm. And it's striving to harm none, that's the thing. It's not easy. So it's guidance, and it also, a million people have made this argument as well, that it tells us that if what we're doing is not harming anyone, we should feel free to do it, or we can feel free to do it. But it doesn't tell us what to do if our action will harm, and that's where it's up to our own judgment. And so for me, I have never thought that striving to follow the reed would prevent me from defending myself. If I were being physically attacked, for example, I don't think the reed would tell me, oh, I can't fight back against my attacker because my cell phone's going off. I can't fight back because I don't want to harm him. No, screw that. He's harming me, and I need to prevent that from happening. So if I have to punch someone in the face in order to make that happen, did I hurt them? Yeah. Was it for the best good? Yeah. They were being a jerk. So it's that whole, it's not black or white at all. So in that case, it would be applied to the, you know, we can own a weapon for self-defense, for self-defense, for self-defense. Or people who hunt, you know, to go and procure their own food. Is it harming the deer? Yeah. Not going to talk about hunting. That's a whole nother similar issue, but I think you can see where I'm going with this. And just overall, I don't really like thinking about topics or speaking about topics as a pagan. You know, when you ask for my opinion as a pagan, I feel like that enables other people to say, since this pagan thought of it this way, that's a pagan viewpoint. It is a pagan's viewpoint. It doesn't mean that every pagan feels the same way about it at all. So I just get kind of uncomfortable when I'm asked to speak to things as a pagan, because I can really only speak to things as myself who happens to be a pagan. Just like this channel is called Pagan Perspective, but that doesn't mean that each one of our individual perspectives is every pagan's perspective. And that's kind of the whole thing that we're trying to show here, that every one of us somehow identifies as pagan and we have differing perspectives on the same things. I wish I had more to say about it, I get, just because I would like to provide something else to you, but it's kind of one of those things that I grew up in this country, and it's just a thing that's always been part of our rights. You know, everyone knows right to bear arms it's a thing. And so really the outside perspective of someone who lives in a country where weapons are banned and looking at us and going, why the hell do they need weapons? We don't need them. That's a more interesting perspective, in my opinion. So please, any of you who are from other countries, or those of you who are from the United States who just have more knowledge about this topic and about the debate surrounding the right to own weapons, please comment, please help each other out in figuring this out, because I do think that's really interesting, and sometimes because we're in the thick of it, it's so hard to see, because we've never been part of, or we've never had in our lifetimes, a government that says, no, none of you can own weapons ever. And I mean, how's Spain doing? I mean, is it so terrible to not be able to have weapons? If you tell that to some Americans, I don't think they think they could live without it. But clearly you can. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm probably gonna have a tough time with every topic this month, because I'm gonna do that same thing where I'm like, I don't want to speak for everyone. I barely even know how to speak for myself on the topic, but those are my thoughts. I hope it was interesting in some way, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. I hope you all had a lovely Samhain or Beltane, depending on where you live, and I'll see you around. Don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.